One of the very first verses that I ever memorized as a new Christian came out of 2 Timothy 2:15. It says, "Study to show yourself approved, a workman that does not need to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth." And boy, over all the years, I've run into that verse over and over again. So often you'll find that the cults, for example, take and parachute in on verses in the Bible, take them completely out of context, and then use them to support what is biblically not true at all. But there's also a danger for us as believers. Whether we study to show ourselves approved, a workman that does not need to be ashamed, do we rightly divide the word of truth? Proverbs 22:6 is a great example. Train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he's old, he'll not depart from it. The problem with taking that as a promise from God is that it's not what it was intended to be. The Proverbs is in the book of wisdom, and this is a principle of life. If you train a child in the way they should go, normally, often, they will not depart from it when they're older. But the truth is, God doesn't have grandchildren. He only has children, and each person makes their own decisions. Psalm 37:4, "Delight yourself in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart." Well, there it is. All I have to do is delight in the Lord, and I get the desires of my heart. First of all, and again, that is wisdom literature. That's not a promise. That's a principle. But the key to understanding what the context of that verse says is, do I delight myself in the Lord? You see, that becomes an extremely important thing. It's somewhat related to what we see in the New Testament, for instance, in John chapter 16 and verse 23. Jesus says that whatever you ask of the Father, he will give you in my name. And so again, we often think anything I ask God, if I say it in the name of Jesus, then I'll be able to receive what he has for me. But the truth of the matter is, when you study the idea of I'm praying in the name of Jesus, I'm praying in Jesus' stead. I'm praying a prayer that Jesus would pray. And he says, when you pray like my son prays, he said, I will give you what you ask. But even for Jesus, if you remember in the Garden of Gethsemane, he prayed, Father, let this cup pass from me. That was the night before the crucifixion. But then he caught himself and ended the prayer correctly when he said, nevertheless, not my will be done, but your will be done. The Apostle Paul entreated the Lord 3 times to remove the thorn in his flesh, and the answer each time from God was no. You see, all of these things can be misinterpreted, and they often are in our case. So what I want you to encourage you to do is I want you to encourage yourself to delight yourself in the Lord. It's the relationship with the Lord that is the key to the joy of your life. Also, pray as Jesus did. Whenever you make a prayer request, end it the way Jesus did. Nevertheless, not my will be done, but your will be done. So what I'm saying is just a reminder to you. Study to show yourself approved, a workman that does not need to be ashamed. Rightly divide the word of truth.